We know class sizes are growing. We know the diversity in those classes are changing.
How do young people find their community? And why do those connections matter so much as they transition into adulthood?
They've got a huge chunk of their life in school. If they're enjoying it, that's great. But then they go home and it's, well, what do you do for the rest of that time? Teaching environment is not fit for every young person. And that needs to change. Because if you've got a large classroom where you've got, say, 20 or 30 odd young people, they're all going to have different needs, different abilities.
Yeah.
It cannot work that you expect to have those 30 people doing exactly the same thing, the same way.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Grade. So I want to look today at how children and young people especially find their community, find their group, their safe space where they can be their authentic self. And that may well be in school, but it's not school for everybody. And in any case, what happens when school closes each day? How do children find their communities? So we thought the very best person to speak to for this conversation is a chap called Alex Fairweather, a seasoned charity leader with over 25 years experience driving organisational growth and social impact across the voluntary sector. Now, Alex is the founder and CEO of Greater Manchester Youth Network, GMYN, which he has grown over nearly 20 years into one of the UK's most exciting youth charities, supporting more than 15,000 disadvantaged children and young people. He's also currently the chair of Youth Alliance Greater Manchester, leading a partnership of over 200 organisations working with children and young people. So the perfect person really to have a conversation with about this idea of how children and young people find their space in their community. I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Alex, thank you so much for giving up some time. I know how busy your week is, and you've still got a busy afternoon to come by the sounds of it. So thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. To start us off, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your professional journey to date, and what led you to setting up Greater Manchester Youth Network, and why youth work has become so important to you?
Yeah, I had this conversation with my son actually this week because we're talking about, he asked me a question of where did you go and what did you do when you was my age? And I struggled with that because it was in the 90s and there wasn't much going on.
Yeah.
But I think I got involved with youth work early 90s, which shows how old I am. And that was involved with, they were called youth forums. So it was actually going out, speaking to young people, seeing what it was about. And I used to go to a confirmation class. I used to do martial arts and used to go to some kind of youth settings, I suppose. So I had kind of youth work in my blood from beginning to there, beginning of that journey. And then I went to university and I wanted to be either a cook or a computer programmer.
A cook or a computer programmer?
I realised I wasn't good enough a cook to be a chef, but I still love cooking now. So that's become a passion.
That's your passion.
Great.
Yeah.
And I learned very early on that I was never going to be a computer programmer because it's one of the most boring things in the world for me.
For you.
And I'm not very good at it. So I realised then I had to do something else. And at university, I got heavily involved with the Students' Union. So I got to learn about the, I suppose, non-curriculum side of university.
Right.
I get involved with clubs and societies. I was the Grand High Master of the Kebab Society, which is one of my claim to fame back in the 90s. And that taught me a lot about actually what else you could do with young people alongside education. And then when I graduated from there, I tried to get many jobs, as we all do, and did lots of part-time stuff. Right. And I learned early on what I didn't want to do, and I suppose that was the thing. And I got stuck.
It's a process of elimination, isn't it? A long process.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you learn a lot from doing obviously lots of part-time jobs and little things.
You do.
But I ended up working for a non-for-profit as a computer trainer. So my computing skills got me into working with young people, teaching them how to use computers through various funded programs. Yeah. And I kind of stuck with that and kept getting offered part-time work. And in the end, I got promoted as a manager to run some various youth programs. So back when there was more money than there is now, there was some national youth programs, and one was called Millennium Volunteers, which I thought it was fascinating because young people could do what they wanted to do as a volunteer. Yeah. And if they did 100 hours, they got an award for it, a certificate. So I was working with young people where they had no aspirations, no, I suppose, educational qualifications, but they would happily do volunteering and happily go out and work in a charity shop or go and do some work on allotment, and they would get a certificate. And that certificate was like, they'd look at that and go, wow.
That meant something to
Absolutely meant something. Yeah. So I picked up straight away that I really like this.
You noticed that.
I like this, I suppose, this youth work and actually going out and making a difference to these young people. And I still work with schools. I still did the awards with schools. And so you got to see various different, I suppose, ways of life across Manchester. But I knew right there and then this is what I wanted to do. Right. And that company closed down, and there was a project at the time called Greater Manchester Youth Network, which is a small little support project. And me and a bunch of employees decided to take it on and thought, let's just take the jump, and created Greater Manchester Youth Network, registered and ran it from a room not bigger than this, and just went for it. And here we are.
How many years later?
Yes, well, it's our 20th birthday next February.
Congratulations.
So that's what we're looking to celebrate now that I think we're a bit better than we're still here. It's just we're here, we're doing great stuff. So
that's amazing. Longevity is an amazing thing that you're still here. So tell us a little bit more about GMYN and its team of youth workers. What kind of stuff you get up to in Greater Manchester? Well,
we moved on from early on, which was volunteering. So that's still part of, I suppose, the bread and butter of GMYN. Right. We want to make young people have the ability and opportunity to do various activities and learn skills from just doing what they want to do. But that's grown considerably. We do a lot of work with a lot of young people who are facing a lot of difficult circumstances. And that's obviously what the charity sector is about. Our focus is giving young people a chance to do something that they will enjoy, but as well as that, they will gain many skills and gain valuable experiences. So we focus a lot on very strong outcomes of building confidence, helping them make new friendships, build new relationships, look at having aspiration to go and want to do something. And the differences which we're proud of, or I'm proud of as the chief exec, is there's a lot of programs out there where it's 12 weeks. Young person enters week 1, enters week 12, and often the fund or the government thinks that young person's set up for life. And that's far from the truth. That's good for some young people, but not for others. Yeah. Whereas the programs we create can sometimes be working with a young person for up to 3 or 4 years. And we have young people through our charity that will go through a funding program when they've joined it May 13, maybe 13, 14, but actually the funding stops when they're 15. They just go on to another one, and we can support them for another few years. And sometimes it takes that long to actually build that trusting relationship to get to the point where they want to do something in life.
That's a recurring theme, I think, on this podcast, actually building that connection, that relationship, that trust. And it takes time.
Yeah.
You mentioned outcomes a little earlier. How, because from a teaching point of view, from an education point of view, this is really interesting for us, I think. How do you track, how do you catch those outcomes, that impact, so that you can test your efficacy, I suppose? Because that's so relevant for schools as well, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing I would say is we often get asked, especially by a funder, like, how will you know this works? And we say, the young people will tell us. You know, the young people will quite clearly say to you, I'm not enjoying this. Yeah. I don't like this. Or they won't come. They'll answer with their feet, won't they? And they don't turn up. But also, as you get to, I suppose, a charity our size, you've got to have tools in place to measure that. And we've invested a lot as a charity in making sure that what we do, we're able to show that evidence. And that's not just to get further funding or get further support, but also to make a difference. I mean, I'm really keen to do things like this where you're able to showcase this project works and we've got evidence to back it up because we have the tools in place. It's often our staff who are brilliant. They'll go out and they'll be able to measure it through some standard frameworks or some tools, but also just things like asking young people, can you just tell us how you feel at the moment? And do you want to come back? And are you enjoying it? And what do you want to get out of next week's session? And then checking them, midway at the end. And of course, then you got the end result, which is they may have moved on to something. And that could be a job, or they could have gone to college, or they've taken part in an activity they've never done before. It all changes depending on what the project is.
You've talked about the work GMYN does. So from your perspective, bearing in mind the audience perhaps for this podcast, what do you think schools could be doing differently to better support young people?
Big question. Yeah,
it is, isn't it?
Big answer.
They're doing all they can, I know, but
yeah, I mean, schools. I have mixed opinions of how schools work. Yeah. I think schools have got a very challenging time. We know class sizes are growing. We know the diversity in those classes are changing, and that's brilliant as well as it's the challenge for the schools. I myself have personal experience with my son struggling with school, and so we see from that. I have teachers in my family, and I employ ex-teachers, so there's a good mix of experiences that we know how the school system, I suppose, is working, but also failing in some of its ways of supporting young people. My fundamental answer would be, of course, youth work. It would be using some youth work ideas and concepts within the school environment. And I've seen that very successful, where you'll have a good teacher who, they don't just have the teacher's focus as in the curriculum focus, but they're able to look past that and look at what the young person or what the people need in the school to, I suppose my fundamental answer would be to enjoy their experience at school, to have fun, to actually want to go there. And if they're not enjoying the actual lessons, or they can't handle the way the lessons are being taught because of their own needs or just because of the system. What else can be done within that school environment via other support that can enable that young person to succeed and actually want to wake up that morning and go, I'm looking forward to going to school today.
That's where all of us teachers, where we want the students to be. It's that invisible thing called engagement, isn't it? It's such a tricky thing to track and a tricky thing to instill. But there is, with your help, a wider team around the young people, more perhaps than they might realise actually. And certainly it makes a big difference, doesn't it? If you've actually got a trusted adult, a friend, a companion, somebody who believes in you, somebody who projects that relentless belief in you. And that's another recurring theme, I think, on this podcast, actually.
Yeah.
And that's certainly something that your team do in spades, isn't it? I think, actually.
Yeah, and you'll see that term trusted adult getting more and more used as time goes on now.
I have this.
Because they're seen. And I suppose my argument would be is don't always assume a teacher is a trusted adult. I'm not saying all teachers can't be trusted adults.
No, of course we're not saying
there are other people in young people's lives where it could be the person that spoke to them in the street or the person that maybe gave them the chance. It could be their boxing coach. It could be a family relative or a friend. It'd be someone that they've gone, that's made the difference in my life. I trust that person, and then I'll listen to them and they'll make me feel that I can go to them and ask for help.
Exactly.
And for my line of work, that help could be something's happened, a crisis has happened.
Exactly right.
Safeguarding incident or something's happened at home, which means I can't do school today and I don't know who to speak to about it.
And bearing in mind that a lot of the members of your team are that trusted adult for a lot of young people, how do you support them and their well-being and their positive mental health? Because it takes its toll, doesn't it?
Yeah. And this is what I was saying before about we are an organisation. So like any company, you have to look after your staff.
That's right.
We've got 30 odd employees that we have to look after.
That's right.
Look after like you would in any way, which is try and treat them obviously as fair as you can be, flexible working. The good thing about the charity sector is we're creative. So we're able to come up with ways of making our staff enjoy what they do. But then you've got the support measures in place, which probably a lot of the general public don't know, which is like having out of hours support so the staff can check in if needs be. So I'm in 24 hours emergency contact. So if someone has a problem, you can always ring someone to go, hey, I need help. I've had this session today. I need support with either just like debriefing or just have I done okay? My team's brilliant. So actually you get very few phone calls because they're very good at what they do. And they know that potentially they will be dealing with some form of trauma or some form of anguish where they'll have to make some decisions or deal with that incident or do a referral to other local authority. We just need to make sure we look after our team. So we do wellbeing support. We have a phone line where the staff can ring someone external and say, hey, I need to speak to someone about my mental health. So we're trying as an organisation to invest in the organisation to make sure the staff don't burn out. But it is hard. I mean, I certainly can vouch for that. That is hard.
But you need to do that for the benefit of the people you work with. Same as schools, actually. You need to invest in the well-being and the mental health of teachers.
Absolutely.
So that ultimately, because it's the pupils who benefit then.
And I was going back to my son. That's one thing I did say to my son is I said, look at teachers as being human beings. You don't know. They've got to face all those pupils in that class. And all it takes is one or two of them to have done something to make that teacher then go, I'm having a bad time. But they have to put their front on and deal with the other lessons throughout the day and the pupils. And it's easier said than done. But it's trying to get my son to understand that you're not their one person. They've got to take care of that day as well as teaching young people. So treat them like human beings because they've got a lot on.
I used to be absolutely stunned as a kid when I saw a teacher in a supermarket after school. I mean, it was just weird. Yeah. You just think that they're kind of part of the fixtures and fittings of the classroom, really, And they had a basket and they had food in it, which suggested to me that they had a family, I mean, I should have found that out. I should have talked to them, but it is sometimes.
They have a first name. They're not called Miss or Mr.
Yeah, apparently they have a first name. I know. And they have feelings as well. We often talk, rightly so, about supporting the whole child. We really do. And so much of your work is about supporting the whole child or young person, but also we need to talk about supporting the whole teacher, don't we?
Yes.
And the whole youth worker, as you're doing by the sounds of it. Maybe we could do more in that respect in schools. Young people spend so much time in school. It's actually, I think the average is 11,000 hours of our childhood we spend in school. 11,000 hours of our childhood. And it leaves a lasting impression, doesn't it? It shapes our character and our view of the world. But we know that their lives and identities are shaped by more than classrooms. What do young people, for you, do you think see as their community? How do young people find their community? And why do those connections matter so much as they transition into adulthood? What does community mean to you and how do they find it?
I think for me, you've just hit the nail on the head. They've got a huge chunk of their life in school. And I think from young people, if they're enjoying it, that's great. But then they go home and it's, well, what do you do for the rest of that time?
It's a lot of time.
What do you do at the weekends? And especially example, like some of the young people we work, that home environment might not be a good environment, might not be positive, might not be safe. No. So you look at what they do, and again, from my own son's experience, where we struggle. So it's a bit ironic that I've been a youth work CEO for years, yet my son doesn't access youth work provision because that's not for him. So he's trying to find out where he feels safe in his community. And we spoke to him, and he likes going to it's like a shed or some form of place he goes to that he says he sits there with his mates, and it's the place where he can feel safe and talk about what his issues are, whether it's school, friendships, other hormonal things that's affecting him at the moment. But he's able to go, that's my safe space. I could talk about stuff. And we've said to him, why don't you go to the local youth centre, go on a climbing wall? It's like, that's not me. It's boring. Don't want to do it. This is what I want to do. So I've seen people's community change. Their community could be their children's home or their family home, or it could be a youth centre, or it could be the boxing ring when they're going out on a Wednesday night, and that's their chance to learn a skill, let off some steam, or get fit. So I think community is a place where young people feel safe, where they want to go, that they can be open and be themselves and not be, I suppose, pressured into moving on. I think one thing I was speaking about earlier is I used to be in the police, so I got to do that because I wanted to see where young people congregated and see how the police reacted with that, because back then I was hearing about how young people just being moved on, and I wanted to see why. And so as a special constable, you got to go out on a Friday night, Saturday night and see young people where their community was. And their community was often a park, or it'd be the car park of a leisure centre or something. And to be fair, in most cases, they were doing nothing wrong, but the community, their local community, was seeing them as the issue. Oh, we can't have a gang of lads on this car park. And I was trying to think, well, why? If that's what, they're doing nothing wrong. And sometimes they were doing something wrong. I mean, not naive here. But there was an assumption that there was trouble there. Yeah, and you'd speak to these young people and they'd be like, well, where can we go? And this is towns and local areas where there isn't a youth centre, where there isn't provision, and the schools are shut. So it's like, well, where can these people go? What's their community where they can actually go and feel safe and do something? And we're often not. It's just a piece of land. That's their piece of land. God, it's fascinating. There's so much we could talk about that. That is so interesting. And I really like the way you describe community. And I think it's actually very apt for this podcast. We could perhaps use the same descriptions for how we describe the community of school. It's a place where you can be safe, a place where you can be, to use a word actually from another podcast, you can be unapologetically yourself. Yes. And it would be lovely if for many of the young people, the school is that community. But as you rightly say, 3, 4 o'clock, it's closed. Yeah. What do you do afterwards then? Fascinating. So what happens, well, we probably know this, but what happens, do you think, when young people don't have access to those spaces, don't find their community? Well, I think this is where we see firsthand how the difference that can make. And for young people, especially of that certain age, depending on whether they haven't got that trusted adult or whether they haven't had positive experience, can take them on different paths, can't it? I mean, you ideally want your child or children in general to have that person that can say, you're doing well, keep it up. Yep. And how can we help you to get from A to B? Yep. And B could be another opportunity, or it could be a job, or it could be another qualification, or something that a young person wants to do. And if that's not there, then there's this danger, isn't it, that young people then can go down another path, and young people then can access dangerous activities, or they can meet up with other people that it's communities come together, don't they? And if there's other people who've got, I'm against the system or I've been mistreated, they become like, well, we're not happy as well, let's support you. And it just starts getting, I suppose, very negative. Yeah. And that's where we come in, because we then go, well, we'll step in and try and bring you back. I call it's something I was taught when I volunteered at Children in Need, which was the line of stability, where you've got, if everyone's thriving, they're up there, but if it drops below the line of stability, you have to pick them up. And Greater Manchester Youth Network is not a vital support charity. There are plenty out there. What we do is we maintain that stability. So if people drop down, we bring them up. If people up high, we keep them there, because we can use our programs to do both. And as long as you've got that young person feeling that way, hopefully everything will work out fine, or everything will be better, because that young person's got the attitude, the aspiration to go, I want to do it. If they've got unsafe accommodation, we can sort that out. We can help out and work with partners to do that. If they haven't got a job but want one, let's look at that. So it's fixing those problems. The young person's not the problem. It's fixing the other things to enable the young person to do what they want to do. And if they drop down, try and bring them up again. If that drop down, it's usually something's happened. Another recurring theme on this podcast seems to be, and I'm glad it is becoming a recurring theme because it's relevant to teaching, is this business of tailoring, of customization, of personalization. So your team
must have an array of different options and so forth, whether it's links to communities, contacts, activities, centres, spaces. And once they've got to know the person that they're working with, they might be able to find somewhere that they're going to find that safety, that they're going to become engaged. Yeah. So you're kind of problem solving every time you're.
It's not just that. I mean, there's intersectionality as well. So you might have a young person who is an asylum seeker, doesn't speak English, doesn't know the community, has been mistreated. So there's 4 things already, just rolling them off. You might have a young person who's in care. The young person obviously has been taken away from his birth family. Yep. More often than not has trauma. Yeah. It could be undiagnosed trauma that takes ages to come out. Yep. That young person then is having problems at school, doesn't want to get a job, is mistreated potentially by adults or teachers or his support worker, isn't needed. So again, there's another 5 or 6 things. And as a charity, we've got to look at all those areas to support each bit, as well as finding them opportunities to get the positive outcome for that young person.
So in that regard, do you have, what contact do you have with schools? When do you go into schools? When do you need to liaise with members of staff in school?
I mean, I will be honest, I don't do the delivery now, of course, so I wouldn't be able to answer that completely, but I would say from GMYN, our work is predominantly non-school. So we have done school projects and we've worked with schools and we have referrals, but more often than that, the young people we support are being supported through other local authorities. So it'll be through social workers, care teams.
That's where you...
Yeah, youth teams, youth centres where we'll go and support them. So we see ourselves mainly as non-curriculum-based activities.
Would you ever, again, it's time, it's funding, it's capacity, but would you ever get into, maybe you do, training in schools?
Yeah.
Because you offer so much expertise that teachers would really value.
And we have tried. I mean, more often than not, the biggest problem we have as a charity is someone saying, we've got no money. And my job is to try and say to schools or other providers, which is, I reckon you would spend this much cash on what you do. I know I could do it better and cheaper with youth work. So why don't you give us a chance? And they're like, we have no money. But we're like, well, we know you need to buy in so much support for your young people, or you'll have pupil premiums that you could tap into where, we could come in and help you with that. And sometimes it's just trying to find the right gatekeeper to see it and work together to go, well, together we could do something that's more efficient. It's building that relationship with that pupil, and actually we can work with you as the school to do that. And I've tried and failed many times. There's been some successes as well, but this is where again I feel for the school, because we've got to get this. We've got to get these young people through their curriculum.
Understood. That's the focus. That's the relentless focus, isn't it? Another theme for us, in fact, probably the overarching theme really of all of these different episodes is how we prepare pupils for the experiences and responsibilities of later life. That's our core legal requirement really for schools, getting ready for adulthood. From what you've seen, and you've seen and experienced an awful lot in various different roles that you've just described. So in what areas do you think young people at the moment perhaps might feel least prepared for adulthood when they leave school, and what could we do about it? It's a big question again.
Yeah, well, I'll try and focus on one, which is independent living skills.
Yeah,
and one thing I've seen is
absolutely
where we've seen recent success is working with young people and teaching them how to cook a meal and how to put up a shelf and how to manage a budget. So
it's not really on the curriculum.
Taking young people to a supermarket and going, we're going to help you buy some shopping, and understanding how healthy some of those foods are and how you should be taking care of yourself. And this is, I think, something where the school journey stops, and then you've obviously got your sixth form college journey, and then that stops, and then you expect it to work. Well, some of those young people might be living at home, or they might have to move out, but some of these young people who we work with don't have that accommodation. They're suddenly turfed out, or the support drops considerably, and they might be left there going, well, I don't know how to cook a meal. I don't know how to sew a ripped jacket, or how to live in a way. I mean, we look at it being the bare basics like hygiene, or how to look after yourself, how to focus on your well-being, because you're in a big wide scale world there. And even though that's brilliant, for some young people, it's like, I've never done these things. And it's things that we probably take for granted.
Yeah, we do.
I'm trying to make my son cook once a week so that he learns, this is just how you cook a meal. This is how you use a knife to cut vegetables. And people go, why are you doing that? It's like, because I want him to go and live in the future where he can cook a meal and he can go to a shop and he knows how to get on a bus and he feels safe and confident to travel to somewhere. And it's just those starting blocks of independent living skills.
If preparation for adulthood is our core legal requirement, it does make you wonder sometimes, doesn't it, why there is so very much focus on English, maths, French, science, history, geography, RE, and so forth, and insufficient focus on how we actually live as an adult.
Yeah.
Kind of what you're saying, really. So how could we fix that? I mean, do you think we should be broadening the actual curriculum itself? We should be trying to shoehorn time into the timetable for those sort of life skills? Some schools do.
Yeah, I mean, my answer straight would be yes, of course. But then, you're going to get a stumbling block of what would go.
What's going to go?
How much can you fit into a day?
Always.
There's not the resources to do it. I think it would be, the golden answer would be obviously loads of money so you can link up the specialists to do it. So you've got the school-based journey there, and it's bringing in the likes of us and other providers who could do those bits and work together and provide those extracurricular activities. That's where I always think it's lucky. If you live in an area where you've got your school life and then you've got your youth centres, and those youth centres or youth provision, should I say, where they've got those youth workers who are able to go, well, I can do that. So half an hour on a Wednesday night, we'll teach you some DIY and how to put up a shelf. We do English conversation classes with our asylum seeker cohort. So again, we come in and actually help those young people learn different skills.
That's really empowering.
And they've come back to us and said they would love to learn more of the activities and lessons that they don't get from the country they've come from. So it's looking at ways in which we can work together to go, well, you don't have to do everything, just work in partnership, and let's try and find some cash to pay for the resources to get this done.
There seems to be this really odd sort of flip when you leave school. And you were right to describe those sort of things at the moment in the current system as extracurricular activities, after school clubs, and that's how we can shoehorn it in. And you're right. But it's odd, isn't it, that when you leave school, budgeting, how to navigate your way around Tesco's and so forth, DIY stuff, those sort of basics, they're anything but extracurricular, aren't they? They're absolutely the main curriculum of life, of living, forming relationships, having partnerships, those sort of things. But in school, it does seem to me that they're sort of left and after school activities.
We call our activities work readiness activities.
That's a nice phrase.
And the reason why we've done that is there's a lot of funding objectives out there to get young people into work. And you'll see from the new youth strategy that's come out now, there's a big push now to get young people work ready and get them into employment, and good employment, sustainable, that they want to do. And where I would go in and say, but what about those young people who don't even know how to think of that? And it's the bare basics of how we get a young person to want to get out of bed in the morning. So if you want them to be there at 9 a.m. to be ready for work, what happens if they don't get there for 9 a.m? Are you going to sack them or get rid of them because they don't fit the system? Or are you going to work with them to try and get them prepared that it might have been 9 a.m. for a few days or a few weeks, or never? How can you flexibly support that? Because that young person hasn't really been told that once they work, they have to dress a certain way, they have to behave a certain way, get up at a certain time. It's a long day to work for some of these young people, some of these jobs. So what we come in is look at the work readiness approach, which is, how do we get a young person from the house want to be able to have that aspiration and skill set to get a job? And if that works, they'll keep in that job. Yeah, they'll be sustainable.
They will. And everything builds from that.
They're the person that employer can invest time and resources in to be their future workforce. And to me, it's common sense, but
no,
it's not to the wider world.
And we're not critical of. You've never once been critical of teachers. I've never met a teacher yet in all my career in teaching who wouldn't want to prepare their students for life and adulthood. Yeah. But the agenda that they're handed, that they're given, is somewhat different to that, isn't it? But you see the consequences of when that preparation isn't put in place.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 things that you might suggest need to change in schools.
Need to change.
I mean, without this has been tremendously positive, and so it should be, because we're both parents. Yeah. We're both seeing how hard teachers work and so forth. But if you're education secretary, maybe a couple of things, more funding, I suppose. Okay,
yeah. So getting into I suppose the political side of my ranting or opinions, I think it should be more focused on fun. I think young people actually enjoying their time at school. And I know schools think of that,
nice way to put it.
My own experience has been, sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't. And my son's testament to that. He does not enjoy going to school.
Yeah.
So what is it that's stopping him? Because the minute you make it that he wants to go to school, or at least enjoys going to school,
the magic happens.
Half the journey's done then, because they'll then be in the lessons, listening, paying attention. I think a big area is supporting young people with disabilities. So especially when you've got undiagnosed conditions like ADHD, where the teaching environment is not fit for every young person. And I know the schools are well aware of that, but that needs to change. Because if you've got a large classroom where you've got, say, 20 or 30 odd young people, they're all going to have different needs, different abilities, and different experiences. More and more so especially now with such a really amazing multicultural setting in schools. It cannot work that you expect to have those 30 people doing exactly the same thing, the same way.
Yeah, that standardized approach.
Yeah. So if there's a way in which we could accommodate that. And I know from my own experience, it's just bringing in support measures to support those young people, but also making sure that they're not seen as the problem. So instead of saying that young person doesn't pay attention because they're lazy and can't be bothered, well, is it? Or is it actually there is something else that's not right there? How much do you know about their home condition and how they feel, and have they had enough sleep? Phones, I mean, the use of social media is obviously a nightmare at the moment, and those schools are looking at it in a very positive way, controlling it and using it in a positive way to actually help young people learn. But I think schools need to adapt and get up to speed with how the current situation is. And I won't even say it's the current situation. It's been going on for years. But yeah. And then I suppose my final bit would be, from my own experience, and I suppose a lot of parents out there, is there's that attention of competition, of schools going, we've got to be the best. We have to have the best grades. We have to have the best attendance. That's not always going to work. And I completely understand why and the climate that is to be seen.
Accountability measures, all that stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously you read in the press about schools being scared of Ofsted, and the schools need to have a certain criteria. And I do understand that. But I feel that puts so much pressure then on the system, the school, the teachers, which then will go on to the pupils.
And in turn, I suppose it leads to why there's such an emphasis on the measurables, on the visibles, on that which can be counted. And sometimes those other immeasurable aspects of personal development are not ignored, but they're necessarily going to be on the fringe.
Yes.
Because they need to get those GCSE grades.
Yeah.
But as the title says, we're interested in beyond the grade, aren't we? We're interested in all the other stuff.
Exactly.
We've got some quick fire questions to fire at you, and then we must let you go back to your really important job. But I am genuinely interested because I find you such an inspiring person. So I'd love to know what motivates you to get out of bed in the morning. How do you do it, especially on a cold day in January? Tell me the secret.
Like I said, it's 20 years, isn't it? So there must be something right. Yeah. I think for me, I like my job and my charities because I still feel, and I always will feel, there you go, that we are an exciting, innovative charity. We are a problem fixer. So I like coming up with solutions. I like coming in and problem solving. And we've grown from being a volunteering project now to working with young people from various different ways of life, cohorts and issues. So you've got, again, young people who are escaping war-torn countries coming to us for safety. I feel great that we could do something to make them feel part of the community. Young people with disability, where people just think they cannot do that. No, it's the systems that's broken. We'll come up with a way of making those young people do what they want to do. And whether that's go to the bus on a bus for the first time, or go shopping, or go to a rave, whatever they want to do, I get excited by thinking, well, let's make that happen. And I think I've seen that fulfillment. You know, I've seen young people where you've seen them grow and you've seen them do what they want to do, and you get that pride. I mean, youth work is very humbling. No one ever says, well done. And it's a thing which I'm trying to get changing. And if I get a chance, I'm talking about a campaign that we're doing at the moment where thinking youth work differently and getting it to be appreciated much more, because it's seeing youth workers and patting them on the back and go, look at what you've done with that young person. You know, you go out of bed this morning and be happy and pat yourself on the back that young person's gone to school or gone to the bus or just said thank you. And there's loads of quotes where young people said, like, GMYN is my family and GMYN has changed my life. If it wasn't for GMYN, I would be in a dark place. That's so powerful. What kind of keeps you going.
That gets you out of bed. I can't think of a better reason to get out of bed. When you were 10, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I think I mentioned before. Back then, I think
is it the cook again?
I think it was cooking. It was cooking, but also I liked acting as well. I like drama, so I thought I'd probably be in Grange Hill or something, or Biker Grove or something like that. Obviously, that failed miserably as well.
Yeah, little cultural reference actually for those if might have missed that.
Yeah, so I think of some modern ones. I know it isn't there. Waterloo Road.
Waterloo Road. I've not seen that, but yes, it's probably.
So I think back then, as a 10-year-old, I didn't really think what I wanted to do. I mean, I was really into gaming, and I worked at computer shops and stuff. So I thought maybe I'd be in that field of some sort.
Yeah. What's one lesson that you learned at school that you still use today, apart from maths, I suppose?
A good teacher, an amazing teacher. So I think we've all had experiences of bad teachers and negative teachers, and this is one thing again I said to my son, which is, who do you have a good relationship? Who's this trusted adult that you have at your school? And he mentioned some teachers, and so they're the ones to speak to then, because I remember for me it was history that I didn't do very well in my exams, the mock exams. I think if it was mock exams back then, but my history teacher saw potential to help me, and I ended up getting, I think, a B or an A in my GCSE in that. And that was thanks to him. And I'll still say now that his approach to helping me learn and his approach to...
He believed in you.
He believed in you. And I liked him. And that's the thing. I had good relationships with those teachers. And I think that to me is the big thing, is remembering that they're human beings. And if those human beings get you and you get them, that's the massive start. I won't spend time talking about the bad teachers who I didn't have the relationship with.
No, I understand.
But
we've all had
let's focus on the good.
Yeah, no, that's a really good lesson to learn from school. What do you think is the most important life skill, or 2 or 3 most important life skills that schools should teach if we can? And they may already be teaching, but which of those would you say are the most valuable in life?
I think, yeah. I mean, I touched on a few of them before, which is the basics. You know, it's learning about what you have to do when you go into living on your own. So I said before, cooking, but even the basics of like health and well-being and supporting yourself, and just being able to like talk about it and go out there and be able to have relationships with people and learn about positive relationships from a personal point of view. But also it's things like the basics, as going out to a shop and going out and doing things independently for the first time. How to do things safely. I mean, today, in this day of age, half our problems is helping young people deal with social media and looking at very dangerous content, and how we can deal with that and prepare young people to go, you might see some things that you don't know about, some scary things. How can we help you with that? So I've probably got more than 3. It's probably quite a big list that I think we should try and really help young people.
I think that has been so helpful, and I really hope everybody's enjoyed it as much as I do. You're such an inspiring person to speak to, and good luck with everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
And here's to the next 20 years.
Absolutely, yeah. And if anyone wants to be involved with our 20th birthday, we are looking for support.
Let's share all the details, actually, when people watch this. You're a top man.
Yeah, thank you.
Really enjoyed that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.